There was a case where a girl who's on a foundation course, I asked her some basic questions. She was not able to think clearly, speak coherently, say anything that really made sense. And I thought, why is this? That, and she seemed to kind of basically be glazed and just essentially going through the motions. I said that, well, this is what I've observed. And mum said, I wonder if this is caused by her playing games on the laptop. I think it was Roblox.
Mm.
And I said, well, how much does she play? It was a shocking amount. And I thought, well, of course it's that. You know, I was trying to, as a teacher, just ask this girl to see what her learning shortfalls were. But the issue wasn't that, oh, she hasn't understood this or she hasn't done this work. It's the fact that her brain's been frazzled because she's been playing on these devices, you know, consuming these digital toxins. And the mum is kind of only in that moment, it's like she thought, oh, I wonder if there's a connection. And it's the same thing. I've seen it time and time again especially since COVID,
Remind me how long you've been teaching kids again.
since 85, so 41 years now.
And how does that compare to 20 years ago?
Even to 5 years ago, but definitely 20 years ago, when children were not playing any digital games, they were, in essence, their thinking was very much like small adults. So you could relate very directly, and if you relate any kind of experience to them,
Yeah.
children would be able to identify with that. And they had, what I like to say, they had their feet on the ground. They were in contact with reality. They were playing physically. They were going to the park. They were riding their bicycles. They were meeting up with their friends often. And those kind of traditional ways of entertaining themselves. And so they were very much more thoughtful, much more in touch with reality, much more imaginative, and much more teachable, much better at learning. Years after COVID, I put it down to the fact that children had missed a couple of terms of schooling. But that was 6 years ago, more than 6 years ago now. The children who were affected by COVID have been through primary school. They finished primary school. There's something else, which is making them much less curious, much less thoughtful, much less imaginative, and much poorer at learning and speaking, expressing themselves, and essentially losing touch with reality. The most kind of acute, visible thing is that their eyes are glazed.
Yeah.
Their eyes are glazed. It's like I ask a question and the answer that I get bears almost no relation to the question that I asked. Because they're just going through the motions of responding. They know that if they get a question, they have to give a response. So they just give a response. It's not a case of, oh, I've been asked a question and the point of the question is for me to think about it and then give a reasoned response. It's just I give a response. And children who have had their brain frazzled because they've been consuming digital toxins, they actually, that's what they do even in giving written answers or doing a test. What they do is there's a question and then they choose an answer and they bypass the bit in between of understanding the scenario, understanding the problem and reasoning out an answer. And this is, I think, a lot related to so-called AI, because of the name AI and because of how powerful the tool is at parsing language, it appears to be intelligent. But of course, there is no intelligence there. You need a mind in order to be intelligent, and it doesn't have a mind. All it does is you give it a question and it'll parse language faster than we can, and it has access to much more language than we do, and it passes that and it spouts back an answer without having any concepts. And now it's as if the children are trying to emulate that. And so many times because I am trying to help children to think through in a way that makes sense, I will ask them when they give me an answer, oh, right. And I won't tell them if their answer is right or wrong. I'll say, oh, okay, so that's your answer. Now explain how you got that. They can't explain how they got their answer because there wasn't a systematic way of thinking it through. And so I feel a little bit like, what can I do? Doesn't matter how experienced I am at teaching and how skillful I am at teaching. These children don't even know what it is to learn. They think putting an answer is what it's all about, not that thinking it through and seeing whether it makes sense is what it's about. They're not thinking that. When I teach, I make jokes because it keeps a little bit of levity, a little bit of fun as part of the learning process. But the children don't even understand that this is a joke.
I remember when I did your course, your crash course, and when I supported, when I was around that age, that was one of the kids' favourite things, was all your jokes, and they would really back and forth with you and always get them. That was not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was running a mock exam. This is the joke I made. I said, write your first name, surname, and the date on the answer sheet. I said, and the date is 16th of August. And then I said, okay, now here's your question booklet. On the front cover, again, write your first name, surname, and the date on the question booklet. And I said, if you've forgotten your name, look on your answer sheet. And they didn't even really register what I said. So that's an example of how what I'm talking about is that children don't understand that this is funny because it's ridiculous, because they're not sufficiently in touch with reality to know what makes sense and what is ridiculous. And that is, of course, tragic for them, but it's just another little window that they're losing touch with reality to that extent. So these are things that should be obvious to parents, but because changes happen gradually, then sometimes parents are not aware of how great a change there has been in their child. Because their child changes so gradually that they don't notice.
Yeah, and a lot of parents have grown up in a world of social media and will know other kids who are similar and probably, won't maybe always realise how severe this issue is, which is why I think your perspective, seeing kids of the same age over such a long period of time, is a very unique and important one.
Well, that's exactly it. And that's why I try to point out to parents that this thing which you have become accustomed to is when you step back and you're detached from the situation and you're seeing a sort of a snapshot, it's very alarming. And I see the pattern because I see so many different families in different circumstances, but having the same issues. Then it's easier for someone like me to see the connection. And very often the connection is that their child is spending a lot of time on playing these games or on YouTube shorts or some combination of the two. And so it's very obvious that that is something parents can do to change things. I think then it's so dangerous for children's development that they should not have online access, not via a phone, not on a tablet, not on a computer. They should not have access online other than what is absolutely necessary for them to do their homework and not beyond that, or for their learning in general. Children are not well placed to make important decisions. That's why parents have to be there to help them with those decisions or to make some decisions for their children. You can't pander to what your child wants all the time. When you see a thing is harmful, better to explain to your child that, look, this is a thing which is going to damage you. This is a thing that's going to get in the way of you growing up to be your best self. And as your mum or as your dad, I need to protect you. And right now, you might not like that I'm restricting your access to the internet. But when you grow up to think for yourself, then you'll understand that this is the right thing for you.
Yeah.
So you have to trust that I'm looking after your interests and not just being me. And I think parents have to be bold enough and courageous enough and thoughtful enough to do that. Many parents are afraid to do that because they don't want to upset their child. They don't want to be the bad guy. And so they pander to their child. But in that process, what they're doing is they are colluding with all the other forces to damage their child, hold their child back. And so there isn't any easy option. But there is the right option. Well, in a sense, that's what courage is to do the right thing, even though it wasn't the easy thing. And so that's the takeaway. You have to do the right thing as parent and not the thing that's convenient or easy. Handing children an iPad and saying, oh, you just get on and keep out of the way, keep quiet. That's easy, but it's not the right thing. Stop doing it.